You know it. You've definitely eaten it. That colorful, wiggly, jiggly dessert that's at every party, every potluck, every holiday dinner. It's a food that just screams fun. But behind that simple wiggle, there's a surprisingly deep and fascinating story, and we're about to get into all of it.
And you know this slogan? It wasn't just some clever marketing line. For decades, it was pretty much a cultural truth here in America. It locked in Jell-O's place not just as a dessert, but as this nostalgic piece of Americana, a symbol of family and that classic mid-century vibe. I mean, really think about it. If you strip away the sugar, the artificial fruit flavors, and all those bright colors, what is the actual stuff that gives this dessert its one-of-a-kind, jiggly texture? Well, that's the big question we're going to answer today.
To really understand what gelatin is, we've got to go back, way back. Turns out its history is a lot longer and, frankly, a lot fancier than you'd ever guess. So gelatin's story actually kicks off back in the Tudor era. The super wealthy would show off with these elaborate jelly dishes called aspics. Making them took hours of boiling animal parts and required tons of ice, things only the richest of the rich could afford. Then jump to 1845, and an inventor named Peter Cooper patents a powdered version, making it way more accessible. But the real game changer was the Jell-O brand, which was bought for a measly $450 in 1899. Through some absolutely brilliant marketing, it went from a weird novelty to a total staple in American homes by the 1950s.
And this quote from James Lilex just nails it. He points out that it was incredible advertising that took this simple, kind of boring substance and turned it into a cultural icon. You had recipe booklets and door-to-door salesmen convincing an entire nation that this easy-to-make powder was glamorous, modern, and absolutely essential.
Okay, so we've covered the history. Now let's peel back the curtain and get to the science. What exactly is this stuff that we've all been eating for centuries?
So here it is, the official definition from the Gelatin Manufacturers Institute of America. The key word here is collagen. Gelatin is a protein that's derived from collagen. It doesn't just exist out in nature, it has to be extracted and processed. And this is really important. There are no plant sources of true gelatin.
So where does that collagen actually come from? Well, there's your answer. The main sources are pig skins, cattle hides, and cattle bones. Yep, these are the starting point for that little box of powder in your kitchen cupboard.
Okay, so how do you get from those raw materials to that pure, odorless, flavorless powder? It happens through a pretty intense, multi-step industrial process.
Now, this flowchart looks super complicated, I know, but it shows the entire journey. We can break it down into a few key stages that take you from raw animal material all the way to a fine powder that's ready to go.
All right, let's simplify that chart. First, they take the raw materials, the bones or skins, and they're cleaned up, degreased, and prepped. Next, they get soaked in an acid or alkali bath for hours, sometimes even weeks, to break them down. After that, they use hot water to extract the gelatin that's now soluble. That liquid solution then gets filtered, purified, and concentrated over and over again. Finally, it's chilled into a gel, pushed out through an extruder, dried, and then ground into that final powder. It's this super intense purification that turns those humble beginnings into such a pure and versatile ingredient.
And this is probably one of the weirdest looking steps in the whole process. Before it becomes that fine powder, the concentrated gelatin is squeezed out into these, well, they look like noodles. These gelatin noodles are then sent down a long conveyor belt through a huge drying chamber. It's a surprisingly mechanical moment in the creation of a food we think of as so simple. So we know what it is, and we know how it's made. But the story is so much bigger than a dessert bowl. Gelatin's unique abilities make it a secret ingredient, hiding in plain sight in countless products you probably use every single day. And that is seriously not an exaggeration. Its power to gel, to whip, to bind things together, to stabilize, and to form films makes it an absolute workhorse for food scientists and industrial chemists.
This table gives you a pretty great snapshot. We know it as a gel former in desserts, obviously, but it's also the whipping agent that gives marshmallows their light, airy texture. It's a binding agent in meat rolls, it's used as a clarifying agent to make beer and wine crystal clear, and it's a stabilizer in things like cream cheese and yogurt.
I mean, the versatility is just astonishing. The exact same substance that gives gummy bears their perfect chewy texture is also used to create the smooth, easy-to-swallow shells for pharmaceutical capsules.
And the list just keeps getting more surprising. Gelatin is what creates that beautiful, shiny glaze on a fancy pastry, but for over 100 years, it was also the absolutely essential ingredient that held the light-sensitive crystals on photographic film. It was literally critical to the art of photography.
And okay, here's one more for you. Just when you think you've heard it all. Gelatin is used as a binder in the head of a match. Its unique properties actually help control how quickly the match ignites. It really is an invisible, indispensable ingredient.
So this is a substance with a very long past and a very hidden present. But what about its future? Well, far from being some dusty old relic, gelatin and jelly making are actually having a huge modern-day comeback. Today, you've got high-end chefs in molecular gastronomy playing with its texture. You have artists creating these breathtakingly beautiful flour cakes that are suspended in clear jelly. And of course, new technologies and dietary needs are pushing things forward, with people exploring everything from 3D printed molds to new plant-based alternatives.
And this innovation isn't just happening in fancy restaurants. I love this quote from a user on Reddit. It's just a perfect example of how everyday creators are brainstorming and using tech like 3D printing to make totally custom jelly molds, moving way beyond those old school ring molds.
And a huge part of this new wave is the rise of vegan options. The most popular one by far is agar-agar, which comes from red algae. But here's the thing, it's not a simple one-to-one swap. Animal gelatin gives you that classic wiggle, and it melts right in your mouth. Agar-agar, on the other hand, creates a much firmer, more brittle texture, and it sets at room temperature. They each open up different creative doors. So whether it's a simple, colorful layered dessert for a party or a super intricate artistic creation, people are finding all these new ways to express themselves with this medium. It just proves that even the most familiar ingredients can always be reinvented. So you go from a symbol of Tudor wealth to a 1950s potluck staple, and now a canvas for modern artists and chefs. This one humble protein has proven to be incredibly adaptable, over and over again. It really makes you wonder, what new and surprising form is it going to take next?